Good afternoon, everyone. We are all set to begin with another stimulating session on connecting the dots. First of all, we would like to thank our esteemed speaker for being a part of the panel discussion, welcoming Shaurya Chakravarti, CHRO, Aptech Limited, Tirthankar Ray Chaudhary, VP HR at BCCL Times Group, Dinesh Bhojwani, Head HR, Star Union Daiichi Life Insurance Company Limited, Dr. Anu Bini, Leadership Development Intervention Specialist. Our esteemed panelists would share their views on achieving agility. Agility has always been a key attitude in order to stand out, but now it's crucial because we are working in a different way and things are moving so fast. Managers need to have the ability to change as environments, people, and business tools change. HRAI welcomes you all to the session on connecting the dots. To know more about HRAI and its events, I would request all our participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We'll be running a poll before the Q&A session. Request all participants to kindly give your feedback on the session. I now take the privilege to introduce our moderator for the session, and further, she can take it forward from there. Dr. Anu Bini. Dr. Anu comes with 2 decades of experience in leadership training interventions. She is also an international facilitator and certified Designing Your Life coach. Over to you, Dr. Anu.
Thank you so much, Pooja, for that quick and crisp introduction, not only about the flow, but also about our esteemed guests. My name is Dr. Anu Bini, and I am, going to be the moderator today. I really am personally also looking forward to this entire interaction because this is something that's burning and a hot topic in every conversation that's coming up in every business meeting. But before we get started, I just wanted to introduce our esteemed guests here. We have Mr. Shaurya K. Chakravarti with me. Shaurya is a CHRO at Aptech Limited. He comes with more than 26 years of corporate experience. We also have Mr. Dinesh Bhojwani. Dinesh is the head of HR and training at Star Union Daiichi Life Insurance Company Limited. In the last 20 years of experience in the HR fraternity in the industry, he's worked with general insurance, banking, retail, and also IT. Dinesh has been exposed and has contributed a lot in developing HR strategy and L&D for organizations. He's pioneered a lot of frameworks and he has worked with lot of sectors and different kind of people and audiences. During the process and his association, Dinesh has been able to understand and add value to people, policy, processes, tech architecture, beat everything. And therefore, he's been contributing towards achievement of business goals and culture building. And you get to know how much he feels for his culture when you really hear him more. Dinesh is also an independent director and TED Talk mentor. So that's Dinesh Bhojwani. We also have Tirthankar Roy Chaudhary with us here. And it's a great privilege because he comes from a sector that is the media. And I'm sure you would want to know what it is to be there and how the HR is functioning there. He's going to share his experiences. But an introduction about Tirthankar is that he's a vice president, human resource at Bennett Coleman and Company Limited. We all know it as the Times Group. He heads the HR business partnering for editorial, brand capital, RMD, and all enabling functions. And is Ranchi alumni. Tirthankar has extensive experience spanning across HR, business partnering, talent acquisition, performance management, career, succession management also. He's also worked with renowned corporates called Bata, Dabur, Nestle, Colgate, India. In his last assignment, Tirthankar was head HR of Raymond Consumer Care Limited. So we have a very wide and very vibrant leaders with us here. And it's truly a privilege and an honor for me not only to moderate this session for all of you all, but also to listen to all these perspectives. And so without much ado, let me just start. And I would like to just set the table, because we hear so much about agility, and we hear so much different perspectives about agility. And agility has become so much important post-COVID because of the entire disruption that happened in the industry, and also because of COVID. So with that on table, my esteemed guests and speakers, I would want to know from your perspective, what does agility at workplace really mean to you? How would you actually define it, say maybe in 2 words or 2 lines?
Can I, Doctor, can I just begin
Yes.
by, just see, to my mind, it is the preparedness and the swift response to current situation, and of course get prepared for the emerging situations. That's how I would like to, put my definition to agility, the question that you asked.
Yes, Shaurya?
Yeah, no. So if you ask me what is agility, I would say it's the velocity. That is speed with direction, right? It also means how quickly you respond to the changing situations, the changing dynamics of the industry. We all know that if we don't change in time, we are dead. And we've seen that especially during the pandemic and after that. Nothing is going to be nothing is going to be everlasting. We don't know the pace of change. So it is also to be geared up for change as it comes. You know, if I were to look at it, if you in an organization, if you launch an initiative and say that this initiative will span a certain period of time, we don't know whether it will actually spans that period of time, go over or be less. So we need to be mentally prepared for any eventuality. That to me is being agile. Yeah.
So, so agility, definitely there's a definition to it, but I would like to link it with business. Say, you do not operate in isolation, HR do not operate in isolation. It has to be linked with business, and I would not be able to give you a 2-sentence response to it. Because the first important thing is that consumer behavior is constantly changing. And if you see right now, 85% of the Fortune 500 company does not exist. Our life cycle of a company, Fortune 500 company, have reduced from 35 years to 18 years. That means constantly consumer behaviors are changing. And as a result of that, the need to adapt to the change. And that is how the need for agility is required. And how do we bring it to the workplace in terms of enabling the organization to adopt with the change is a huge responsibility of HR. And that is the absolutely right definition what Dinesh and Shaurya had shared. How do we make up to the change? And there is a whole ecosystem that needs to be geared, whether it is capability, whether it is culture, whether it is a mindset, or to that. How do we get on to the change and understand what are the future trends are happening to ensure that we will be able to build our capability and infrastructure to manage the change.
I think that is really very true when we're talking about it's all about business. I think the HR perspective and has moved from just moving from policies to governance, and it's changing, right? It's evolving into culture, and we all are walking hand in hand with business. So yes, as Dinesh very rightly put, I think it is all about bringing in the change and being the change and being adaptable and being very prepared for it, because change management has in itself, the definitions are becoming so dynamic. Yes, Shaurya, as you rightly said, it is not about just changing. Suddenly it's becoming also having a direction. So it's you should change, you have to be prepared, you have to have a velocity, but you should be also changing. And thank you so much for bringing the the consumer or the customer perspective to it. So when we're talking about business, the agility has moved in because whatever agility is happening at the workplace, it's reflecting into strong business metrics or business having a huge business impact on the on actual real business performance. So I think that's the reason why HR is becoming such a strong pillar of support or partner for actually propelling the workforce so that we are more productive and we are more we are able to give the best performance. So taking cue from there, Tirthankar, I just wanted to ask you that when we talk about agility, we talk about agility needed at workplace, and we talk about consumers. Can you share some, and I know how much the media has changed, how much, I mean, you all have really seen it all and been there. And so when you're talking about agility, can you share any best practices or any agility strategies that probably you all implemented to just be very adaptive and be more prepared to the changes that are happening, and so that we survive and thrive?
Yeah, definitely I'll share. So what happens is that when there is a change in terms of the consumer behavior, what happens is that an organization who is understanding and eager to adopt with the change, there is a change in terms of the strategy. Now, HR organization has to see that in order to support the strategy, what is the organization structure that is required and capability that is required. And capability also requires a mindset change also. So for us, for BCCL, was inherently our core business is print. We definitely have a separate digital vertical. But in order to see the change in terms of the consumer behavior, because people are also consuming content through various platforms. So we wanted to become audience across platform organization. So, and in order to bring about the change, the first is that what is the change in terms of the structure that is required? Is there any capability? So we hired certain capability that is required. Second is that since we have been an excellent capability in the print, how do we change in terms of the mindset? Because people would be consuming content through various other platforms like podcast, like videos, and other tools. So how do I change the mindset of people, talking that without we adopt these platforms, we will not be successful? And at the same time, we started investing in terms of people, in terms of capability on podcasting, people capability on videos, and various other platforms. How they can be also sharing content in the social media. So there are various other initiatives that we have driven, but some of the initiatives have really taken off well. If you see some of the podcasts that is coming from Times of India or from Economic Times are very outstanding quality, and we appreciate, and for that HR has supported in terms of getting the right capability, the right structure, and what sort of a training that is required. And we have built it as a part of the performance management system recognition program also. So the thing is that now, after we have been successful in terms of podcasting, videos, what is the next capability that we need to develop for the future? That is what we are working towards. And that speed is extremely fast. So HR also needs to have a very good understanding of business ecosystem, have conversation with the functional manager, how they are going to invest that capability much in advance, and so that and accordingly move forward. So I think we have been successful in the very initial stage, but a huge way to go, and changing the mindset is not easy. When you have a huge workforce to manage, changing is a mindset is the biggest thing, and it takes time. So
Right.
that is something that you need to gear constantly and drive.
Right. So I think when you talking about having agility mindset, yeah, and developing that as it, and based on that, a lot of changes happening internally. Dinesh and Shaurya, would you has this impacted any of your internal definitions? Have you all brought in some changes in maybe your in your values or anything like that? Would you all like to share?
So, Anu, let me tell you, I would like to quote an instance. In 2017, we had embarked upon the PCMM journey in AppTech. 2018, we were level 3 appraised, and 2020, we were aiming to be level 5 appraised, right? All the pre-work and everything was happening on schedule, and then COVID hit. We didn't know what a lockdown was. You were just actually locked in your house. You couldn't come out. There was a huge fear of life.
Yeah.
But the appraisal process had to be done. So we reached out to our consulting partners, who in turn got in touch with the CMMI Institute USA to see whether we could have the final assessment, the final appraisal done digitally. It was approved. Getting half of the organization, or practically the entire organization, into action mode, ensuring connectivity while you are at home. You can't go out. So ensuring that everything was being done digitally and going through that 10-day final appraisal process and achieving a level 5 appraisal. To me, that was the biggest definition of agility at Aptech. Whatever we may want to call it. The second thing I would say is how the business reacted to very quickly to understand the needs of the students and deliver. See, because we would deliver our programs through our business partners at their respective centers. Now, suddenly all that was gone at that point in time. I'm talking about 2020. The ability to scale up in view of the adverse situation at that point in time it took a mammoth effort. There was collaboration that was visible. People understood the need for being agile. They practiced agility. They understood that scalability is a given, and we were living in a VUCA environment. So to me, that is something an example which I can quote. And as I said, PCMM, achieving PCMM level 5 appraisal was the biggest example of agility, is what I could say.
Wow, that was an amazing example of collaboration and synergy coming together and just ensuring that the business outcome hits it and we are able to do it. Thank you so much, Shaurya, for sharing that. Dinesh, looking forward to hearing that.
Yeah, sure. So, see, our journey in the last 2.5 years, 3 years, has also been some, to some extent accidental, because nobody was aware of this VUCA world and now the new word Bani world, you see. Yeah, and we had to really think about it. Honestly, in the hindsight, when I think, many things happened accidentally, but there were certain things I would truly like to admit that also happened very, very consciously, and some of those conscious things were, and I would like to straight away come to what we changed, what we changed in ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah. While unfortunate period, the passage of time that all of us have seen, but what we've seen for our industry is that the business grew because of the adversities, the awareness improved. Therefore, people said there is a need for an insurance product, for various reasons. Yeah. Now this happened, and this purely happened by chance. So one accident, nobody benefited out of, the entire thing, because finally we also had to settle our claims. We also had to go through the sorrows and the mournings of, people going through what they have gone through. But at the same time, awareness was created. And what came out as an opportunity for people is that the future will be better, at least the financial well-being, which we keep on saying as HR guys in my own system or in everybody else's system. I'm sure Shaurya, Tirthankar, you all would also be speaking about financial well-being of the employee, and must be offering as one of the EVPs, one of the pillars of EVPs or elements of EVPs there. Future will be better, because if you have financial control. Now, what we consciously changed was the values especially at the leadership level. And specifically, we coined two things. One is empathy and humility. Now, empathy and humility was not for the people at the bottom of the pyramid, I'm using the word, and at the middle of the pyramid. It was, if we exhibit this at the top, empathy during these times, humility in behaviors, and then mapping and aligning it to all our HR processes or our sales processes or whatever. was the right thing to do. Because you see, what happens is ownership is everybody's cup of tea. One can very well exhibit and display ownership. Collaboration is also important. Otherwise, if there is no collaboration, nothing happens. And we will also display that, yes, this is an example, great example of collaboration. We can do that. But here is what was clear expectations from the top, right from the CXOs to everybody else who is heading a function and below. So empathy happened, exhibition of empathy or display of empathy and humility in the behavior around PMS processes, around COVID helplines, around everything else. So that happened by choice and good mood, as because business was growing and business was happening. It allowed us the opportunity. So we were the fortunate ones to understand that there is an opportunity that we can do good, to the society. So we embarked onto a CSR thing. We also did some good shows by going to the campuses and blah blah blah. So therefore we discovered another important thing that happened during this period was that we became a listening organization more than ever, more than earlier.
Wow.
We became a
Wow.
learning organization more than ever,
Wow.
So these two things. So during this period, the amount of surveys that we would have conducted, whether transactional or strategic, I'll just give you an example. In our own case, recently, about 6 months back, we conducted a survey on happiness. What is the meaning of happiness? 5 themes came out, and then people were expected to respond back to this survey. There are phenomenal results which are coming out at different levels, and then you have different cuts and the way you would want to read this report. So all that happened allowed us the opportunity to serve the people, so therefore we could also not only coin these values but could also live those values. Yeah, so that's how the journey has been. And thanks to people's response, that we are now more a listening organization. We know what is required to be offered will also come from people. During this period, in order to lift the moods of the people, various committees and clubs were formalized, and they were all democratic. So, for example, a learning club. So learning will happen. L&D is an important pillar, but learning can come also from, so people were expected to nominate themselves as trainers. Okay. And then they're formed a learning club. Another important point that I would leave, before I actually stop, was, the fun club, which was also by the people for the people. So any kind. So we have a band of SUD Life, which is called Symphony. Okay, so we have football tournaments and cricket tournaments and all that is happening. So that kept us engaged, and now people are only responding to this. So while the world will remain a VUCA or a Bani world, but how do we respond to that is something that that we are finding interesting, exciting, and really serving that purpose. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Wow, Dinesh, that was such a, it showed so much of everything that we speak. We speak about value-based, and we speak about empathy, we speak about listening, but the way you have tied down all these attributes, to company values, and then had this disseminated into actual implementable activities and, clubs and all of that. I think definitely the audience is, going to take this home. I think from empathy perspective and humility perspective, also, I think what you have done is just taken it up from the words written on a book or maybe a placard. You've taken it up and actually help people embody it and demonstrate it. And what a wonderful way of showing how the HR can actually, be the team that actually enables get this entire into demonstrated behavior. Yeah. And that was real. I'm sure there were a lot of takeaways. Yes, mental health. And it was like, I like the word that you said, by the people and for the people. It was completely democratic. That also shows about human nature, that when something goes wrong, a lot of people come together. Actually, at the heart, everybody is good. You said that, okay, insurance was there. There was a business opportunity, but, you were not, taking just that as an opportunity, but also thinking about what can I give back right away. I think that there was there were so many ideas, and I'm sure a lot of people will take from learning and development. And I could see the entire synergy and collaboration coming in. And Shaurya, yes, as you rightly said, it was a business delivery, and you again you have shown probably in this demonstrated behavior how teams have come together, each held hand in hand. They were the implementers, they were the doers, but how all of you all came together and ensured, things came to a closure. So I think we're touching about a lot about ecosystem. We're talking the strategies are important. We also are trying to endorse and validate the fact that yes, we are catalysts and we are enablers. So Shaurya, you've been there and you've seen it all. You actually also have been, and I'm sure you will have. You have seen agile methodologies even happening in software. I think in 2011 there was a very good caption that had come in, software is taking everything, and now it is agility is taking everything. And I think from an HR perspective, what has this been, what is the change that has happened from we being HR culture, or are we still in HR and culture, or have we moved from there into something more? How would you now define the roles of HR?
So, Anu, first thing I would say is that HR, the traditional HR was about building the frameworks, ensuring compliance, ensuring the processes, systems were followed. We often hear the word today, people and culture. And, on a lighter note, we HR professionals are experts at inventing terminologies in keeping with the market trends. Now, to me, people and culture is about building trust. And as Dinesh rightly said, empathy. You need to teach empathy to people. Some people just don't understand what empathy is. So you need to educate people that, by giving examples of how you can be empathetic in a particular situation. Empathy is all about understanding, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and understanding the situation. It's very easy to say that, okay, why wasn't something done, or why wasn't a sales target achieved, or whatever it is. But do we as leaders understand, go into the shoes and understand why something couldn't be done, and what is it that we can do? See, we often say HR is a support function. HR is not a support function. HR is a business function which enables achievement of business deliverables and goals. Right? The people aspect is the facilitative ownership rests with HR. Coming to that, I'll tell you, we have a competency in our competency dictionary. We have a competency called flexagility, which is a combination of two words, flexible and agility.
Okay.
Just being agile doesn't help. And this competency dictionary was last revisited in 2019. It's currently under review again, because I do believe that competency dictionaries have to be business dependent and not just, one HR Bible there. So flexagility is all about how you respond to that situation. Are you flexible? Are you agile? It's a combination of two words. That's something which we've practiced all along at Aptech.
Wonderful. I think, yes, I like that competency is just not a dictionary or a Bible. It has to be so relatable to whatever the company is talking about. And yes, I think I really like being flexible and being agile. So that's the combination that we really need to look for. I think with that pointer, I think Tirthankar, I just wanted to know that did y'all in your own, now that Shaurya is speaking about competency, he's telling that there were some additions made, some pointers taken, things reviewed. Tirthankar, did it also happen? Because as you said in the beginning of the session that your audience had changed. Suddenly media was taken over by anybody and everybody. I think today we don't, everybody seems to be a content developer and a content giver and a content consumer also. So Tirthankar, from a company perspective, did you all implement any change in competencies or anything like that, or something that you all did to handle this volatile situation that was happening between vendors as well as the inflow of the workforce?
Yes, we did. So one thing that is important is that we are significantly working on digital dexterity as a capability, because that is very critical for us for the future, for the current and also for the future. But if you see that to keep ourselves from an agility point of view, what we strongly understood, and we are continuing to do that, creating a sense of psychological safety at the same point with Dinesh and Soumya has shared, and which is very, very critical and very difficult to implement. Because what happened during the pandemic, all employees have gone through extreme level of psychological safety issues. People had stayed back at that point in time, but the moment the business has come back, people tried to find out opportunities have moved out, which was called as the huge the resignation, era of resignation, and like
Yes.
that. See, if you want to bring about a change and bring about innovation is very, very critical to adapt with the change, because and that psychological safety is very, very important, because you have to create that idea that if you are failing, it's fine. So we have a couple of processes that we do, because as an organization, we have one of the very important pillar is innovation. And that's why we continue to lead the industry, and some of our product is quality of the product and the standards are actually talking about that. At the same time, what we have significantly invested on digital learning agility. In order to manage the change, we have brought in a lot of changes in the learning processes also. We give opportunity to people to appear for important projects. At the same time, various assignments that they take over, universities that they can take for various courses. So there is a similar the couple of processes that we have introduced. Very important is that when you are bringing about a change, how do you bring in terms of the change in terms of your performance management system? And that is what is very important, is that we have introduced a concept of performance check-in, because right now we are in a hybrid one. Some of the people are working from home, some of the people are working from office. So how do we engage the people across? And that's why we have introduced performance check-in, where people do not have a conversation at the mid of the year and the end of the year. It is on a monthly or a quarterly conversation that happens, so that we are focused with what our North Star is, and we continue to bring changes so that we are able to achieve the North Star. And a great conversation happens between the line manager and the employees.
Awesome. I think I see a lot of changes, and how that to maintain an ecosystem, how many changes you all are making. You all are creating catalysts, you all are creating enablers, and you are ensuring that learning agility. That's very nice. I think even Dinesh brought it up very well, because when we talk about agility, one of the core things that should happen in agility is not only about absorbing that information, also about disseminating that information. And I think
I'll give one example more.
Sure,
What was happening is that you see, as an organization, we are great from a culture point of view, and and we are a great place to work. So what was happening is that people used to come to our office, see the legacy and the culture. When you come to an organization, you understand, you smell the culture, you can feel the culture, and that used to take a lot of hiring decision, and people also taking a lot of decision to join. So what we have done, since a lot of hiring is happening digitally, we are starting a project on like a metaverse, trying to understand the culture through metaverse. Going through to office tour, and which is amazing. If you go to TOI office floor or an ET office floor, it's an outstanding office floor to visit. It's because we are a 180 years old organization. The legacy, the culture. When you have a huge strength, because truly speaking, there are a lot of organizations with high speed growth. They have a huge impact on the culture. They are not being able to hold people back in terms of the culture, because at times when the startups happens, they compromise on the culture to drive growth, because at times it is very, very difficult to retain both. We are very, very unique in terms of our culture. How do we represent to people rightly when they are not coming to a workplace and doing the interaction? So that is a culture through metaverse. That is work that's happening. So we are also taking a lot of initiatives to adopt with the change and ensure that we give the right employee experience to people.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. I think, what I'm from the entire conversation that is happening, what I'm understanding from a strategic perspective, agility is taking a huge new shape. Probably, like an amoeba, it is just taking new shape every minute, every second. And that is bringing in the ability to combine speed and data driven. And I think innovation is something that none of the organization can stand back at, So I think it's just combining speed and getting data driven at the end of it. As you rightly said, Tirthankar, and I think it came up even with Shaurya's conversation, even with Dinesh's conversation, that finally, we are able to have examples within ourselves that yes, culture, like Peter Drucker said, culture can eat strategies and breakfast. I mean, you need a culture. We always quoted that. We always felt that. We always thought that. But here is a time when we actually, I think, organizations which had great culture, which could move that entire digital disruption, and also who could move in terms of people, that's where I think that's where the heat was. And I think people have glided very well, because somewhere finally we were able to maintain that culture and the ecosystem, because of which people were able to do it. Yes, we heard about the great resignation, and I know there are examples where there were a lot of resignations happening, but the adaptability, the agility, where people never thought remote working was possible, where continuity in quality and talking during proposal meets was just as a block. We actually had to continue business, and what was written on paper actually happened. It didn't happen because there was a software. It didn't happen probably because there were buildings. It didn't happen because everything was in place. It happened because we had a culture, and a culture with leaders. I think with that, I think one question, I mean, this is getting more and more interesting, and I'm sure all of, you all can please share more. But just, I thought, because we are moving so much into the leadership, Dinesh, I just wanted to ask you that if you are a leader today, and now the things are changing, and we are understanding there is agility, how do you demonstrate that as a leader? What are your thoughts? And after that, I would also want Shaurya and Tirthankar, please share, how can you demonstrate the agile mindset, the entrepreneurial mindset, or the agile leadership behavior in your organization, in a remote and in a hybrid setup? Yes, Dinesh, this is a difficult question that I'm sure you'll give to.
Yeah, I would attempt this. See, one is there are two important things to my mind again, and I will keep saying that allow people to participate has been the most important thing in the last 2 to 3 years, and that's where there is a mind shift, there is a mindset change. The entire thing depends upon the greatest responsibility once again is on the leadership team of any organization. Both gentlemen spoke about innovation so very well, gave examples from their world. Now innovation will only come when there is a mindset, and people are allowed, and then facilitators like HR, we participate. So if there is a disruption mindset, if there is a startup culture even within a classical organization, if there is a thought process that is changing, that is all agility, that is all preparedness, that is all readiness, and that is all our response to the current world and the world that is emerging. Then we are so to certain things, once again, the responsibility to my mind is fixed at the leadership level first. So what are some of the things that I was listing before? What are some of the things that we leaders of HR, we leaders of business, we leaders of the organization who have assumed the charge there can do? And so first of all, the responsibility of a leader, if I may say, and I've written it down, so allow me to read it from here. One is first of all, assess what is happening in the world, so assessing the change itself. Then the second thing, and I see this as an impediment if it is not accepted well, so accept change that it is happening. You cannot be who moved my cheese, you see, and continue to remain brittle and hard and all that. Then there is decision making, which is also data based, tech based, not gut based, not mood based, not emotion based, which is happening, and therefore we should take a plunge. Other thing is develop an agile team and organization. Then it is your responsibility to make sure your own internal teams, if I am an HOD of a function, whether my teams would think like that, whether whether they are empowered or no, whether they help me change me or no, or and vice versa. So that will happen. Now, some of the values that that to be developed to be agile is openness, as I said, accept change, creativity, which is most important. That has existed since Hitler's day also, and previously there could be multiple examples. Wrong and right both can be taken here. Acceptability, take a holistic view, multidimensional thought process, avoid complacency, which both gentlemen have also said, upgrading and upskilling in the current world, networking. Shaurya also said that not more than 2 years, the life of a competency framework cannot be more than 2 years, in which I totally agree. This is what we had to do. So what, just one small example, when we were assessing about a year back, the workforce, what is the mindset of the workforce? Maybe they are hesitant, maybe they have a soldier's mindset, maybe they are tentative, maybe controlling, micromanagers, instructional leaders. From there to where should it go? So maybe we listed down again by the means of some survey and talking to them. Is a hesitant mindset should change to a fearless and accountable mindset. While I am fearless, but accountability. A soldier's mindset should be explorer's mindset or a seeker's mindset. A tentative guy can be an authentic guy. A controlling could be a steering leader. A micromanager could be a lighthouse in that sense. And then instructional could be imagination, and you try to show that direction. Another important thing is networking. So I'm giving some words that in this limited space of time, but these are some certain things that we have experienced, felt, designed, practiced, have thrown them out of the window, which were not working, and we are still evolving. Networking is important for a leader's behavior, something that is to be developed, agility to be developed. Then content absorption is important. Am I open? Can I really absorb the content and be a sponge, and then give it back to the team, to the organization at the right place also. I mean, you have a whole lot of knowledge and information, and you choose to keep quiet in boardrooms, and you choose to keep quiet where it matters the most. Then what is the use? What is the use of you as a leader? Then write a book and be a hermit. Yeah. So all that, to my mind, while I leave it to you and to Tirthankar and of course Shaurya. Over to you.
That is sharp and crisp, and just slicing your heart and slicing apart the thoughts. That there were so many good things, and I'm sure the audience is noting it down, and I'm sure that that people are going to take it up from there, and they now know how these behaviors and what are these behaviors that they need to look for, and also that they need to exhibit. Yes. Anybody else from the panel would like to share or like to add?
So Anu, I would say that, your question, how do you demonstrate agility? First of all, I think as leaders, do we accept failure? One of the principles of Agile is fail fast. And why fail fast? So that you succeed fast. Right. You understand what is it that needs to be done. A task is broken up into various sprints. Right. Do we actually practice that? It's not about demonstrating it. Do we actually practice that? A very simple example is, do we understand? Do we reply to people? Very simple. We get so many messages, emails, or whatever. Do we reply to them? Do we say, we say, I'll come back to you? Standard response. We should, right? The other aspect of being agile is to understand whether it is in tandem with your business objectives and organizational goals. Don't practice agile just because everybody else in the market is doing that. There are a lot of methodologies, systems, processes, or whatever you may want to call it, but you need to do only which is in tandem with your organizational goals, with your business objectives. You can't be doing everything together. You need to prioritize. So being agile to me is also understand how to prioritize, what to prioritize, and what to execute in a certain defined period of time. For example, an organization may have multiple systems. Is it best to have multiple systems or one particular system in terms of MIS or ERP? How do we best integrate that? That is agility. Are we simplifying the lives of people in the organization, or are we making them more complex? That is agility.
Yeah, if I take this question, yes, agility is definitely from a current point of view, and I completely agree what Shaurya and Dinesh said. In order to move fast, in order to be agile, decision making, and moving fast, you need to also understand what are the challenges that you're currently facing in terms of the systems, process, and structure. But I also do very rightly is to speak to our business leaders. What are the changes that are going to happen? And in order to manage the change successfully, what is the HR action required? In terms of capability, when I'm hiring a person, or in terms of capability of building capability within, or in terms of the change in the structure, because capability comes out of the right structure and the right talent, and at the same time, right systems and processes, maybe technology also. I think the right conversation and how again, I'm very fond of talking about, not fond, I have an inclination towards understanding how the consumer behavior is happening. Because if you do not have a business conversation, because then business would also only consider your HR person, not a business person. So you need to have the right business conversation. And that's why understanding the business ecosystem is very important, and ensure that we are well prepared on building the capability so that you do not struggle when the rubber hit the road. So that is also proactively understanding, preparing the organization to be agile for the future is something very important, because once the situation comes, you will be hit hard and you will not be able to be on the right trajectory. That is for me agility. You're on mute.
Yeah, sure. I think, yeah, this was a very classic example of being agile because while I was talking to you all, there was a power cut in my area, and suddenly now I had to be agile and I have to quickly switch from my laptop to my mobile. But I think I remember while this goes on, this has been such an interesting question, and I think there's been a rich level of experience that I shared, and so many tips and tips to be taken. I think it was one of the participants who said even in an education system, I think in one of the chats she shared that he or she shared that, I'm so sorry, I'm not able to see the name right now because I've joined in as a participant, but you shared that even in the education sector, where we really never thought teachers would be able to adapt to this new education delivery method, they changed. And not only that, even the parents of K-12, parents also. So, I think that's what, has happened. The audience is changing, as well as there was a classic good example that was shared. And I think with Tirthankar, I think that's where even you came up with saying that, how there's so much to talk, and, we've tried to bring in and bottle down all the experiences here. And I'm sure that Neha will be probably sharing more, and I'm sure the audience themselves are also excited to ask some questions, So right now I would like to hand it over to Pooja, and probably Pooja, can you help to pick up the questions from the audiences, please? Yeah, thanks, Nehachal.
Yes,
sure. Nehachal shared the thought about the K-12. Thanks, Nehachal, for that contribution from the audience. Really appreciate it. Yes, Pooja, can we just now hand it over to the audience, and probably we can pick up some questions from there?
Yes. Before we move into the Q&A round, we will be running a poll to have the participants' valuable feedback on this session. During this time, we request all participants to feel free and put their questions in the chat box.
Recording in progress.
So I think Pooja, we should move ahead in case there are no
Yes, okay.
questions.
Yeah, so we have just one question from Neha. How do you measure agility?
I think, Claudia, would you like to address that question? How do you measure agility? I think even Dinesh, I think even when we discussed, you had some view perspectives to it. Yes. How do we measure agility? That's interesting.
Shaurya, are you speaking or?
No, please go ahead, Dinesh.
Okay. See, the proof of the pudding is finally business results. Yeah, and nothing more. Some of the matrices, are your people happy? And these are some, certain theoretical things which can have mathematical results also, if you really ask with intent. Your business results for sure. Finally, you are changing strategy. Finally, you are changing in, finally you are operating in a market where there is competition. You are working with your employees, whether employees are engaged or no, whether employees have appreciated your strategy. Therefore, what will be the employee engagement, and if there is an employee engagement survey, and what is the attrition? Is the attrition is going down or coming up? Some of the certain things, because finally, to my mind, if you have done something transformational, if you are changing something, certain things and ways of doing it, therefore the results will come in form of certain change, incremental change or drastic change, radical change, and all that. Now all that will have to be measured, put in a matrix. And to my mind, business metrics and HR matrices, even the classical matrices, what are the results they are showing, where is the needle moving, is the way one can measure whether you are agile, you are working towards it, and you are successful in what you have done or not. Limited response to this will be this.
So if I were to say, how do you measure where you are vis-a-vis where you went? In Agile, there is this concept of the burn down chart. What does the burn down chart do? It will actually help you to understand your progress in the sprint, as you call it in the Agile terminology. Where have you reached vis-a-vis where you wanted to reach, and what is the backlog in terms of or the work remaining to be done? That's how you would measure it. And of course, what Dinesh said in terms of the total business, and it's of course linked to business, otherwise it can't be standalone, right? That's one way where you track it.
Tirthankar, anything you would like to share?
I completely agree that there are certain finally business results are very important, and also the engagement score or leadership scores are important. But when you bring about a significant change, you need to also reward efforts, because at times, because when there is a change, you need to engage a lot of people in this endeavor. So, and in order to engage people, you need to recognize efforts, also some of the efforts, maybe through certain initiatives taken, people who have gone an extra mile to deliver have taken up certain initiatives, accountability, because those are very important to drive engagement. So that is also an aspect that you need to look in when you are driving a significant big change. And that's very important to bring about a mindset change, celebrating successes, talking about failures also, and what are the corrective action that needs to be taken. Because what happens, we are definitely outcome oriented, but if you also give some input on the throughput also that becomes very critical to get the output. So I completely agree with both of them, but at times this also works.
Shaurya, can you explore more about what you spoke about the agility? Somebody just put it to me. More about the metric that you spoke about. Just a little more about.
Well, that's going to take a long time, you know.
Okay.
I
Some point.
mean,
Okay.
yeah, probably I can send it across to you and then, you know,
Awesome.
yeah.
Pooja, you were on mute, seems. You were.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Anu, for taking us through this session and making it such interactive and exciting. Thank you to Shaurya, Tirthankar, and Dinesh for sharing your valuable thoughts and insights with us. It has been a privilege having you all for this engrossing session. To all those who wish to learn and grow, you can access the recording of our today's session on our YouTube link shared in the chat window. Before we conclude with today's session, we would also want to thank all the associations, GACIA, NASCOM COE, TELGRO, TLE, WICCI, LinkedIn Local Ahmedabad and India for supporting the HRIS event. To know more about these associations, request you to kindly visit the links provided in the chat window. Do join us for our next Connecting the Dots session on the topic Driving Innovation in the New Reality on 1st December 2022. That's it from our today's webinar. Hope to see you soon. Stay safe, take care, and bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you all.
much.
Thank you, Dr. Anu, for holding it for us. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all of you. Great discussion.
Thank you,
Thanks, Dinesh.
Shaurya, Tirthankar. Thank you.
Same,
Bye-bye.
same,
Thank you,
same.
Dinesh.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dinesh.